Ladies and gentlemen, we have this model. It's model version 10, and I'm just going to put it up quickly on the drive for your downloading pleasure, if you would enjoy recourse to it. There we are. I've placed it up there if you would like to use it. Next, we're going to proceed. I'm going to save this as a new version because I'm changing the functionality with a logical chunk of work. I just added a logical chunk of work that did something. Now I'm going on to a new logical chunk of work. It benefits from a new model version. Ladies and gentlemen, version 11. What I'm going to keep track of here is something different. It's longitudinal in character, but longitudinal at an individual level. It's changing over time, but at an individual level. I want to record for each individual the number of the number of infections that have taken place for that individual. How would I do that? If I were to use by analogy to what we did here. Here we did the running total across the entire population for a week. And therefore, we placed the variable where? Where was the variable placed in this example? In Maine. If we want to keep track for each person, their running total of infections over all time, where would we place, what would we do to do that? We'd have a what in person? A variable. And where would we increment that variable? Where would we add 1 to it? Yeah, in person as well. We'd do so in person. So let's repair to person, if we may, much as you will soon repair to the global commercial empire of Starbucks. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, we shall put into person a what? A variable. And this will be called cumulative infection count. I think that's a pretty evocative name for it. Some people may be able to improve it, but I think it's not bad. And it will be an integer. Its initial value will be 0. We're going to keep track of the number of variables, okay? Or the number of infections. Ladies and gentlemen, in the infection count, so where are we going to increment that? Anyone? At the point of infection, which is here. So what are we going to do? Can you tell me what to type? Okay. This dot, good. Cumulative infection count plus plus. We're going to increase the count for each person, the number of times they've gotten infected. Could that be greater than 1? Of course it could, because they could go back here, right? They could get infected many times. Could they not? Cannot. Can. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to try running this right now. Is that okay? Good or not? Good. Okay, let's try running. Boom. Okay. There we go. And we're going to run it over time. I'm going to run it for a certain amount of time. Then I'm going to dig down to the level of the population. Here's a person who's been infected 257 times. Poor person. Okay. Okay. Number 2, 291, 288, 270, 273. Do you see that? See or not? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, now we've keeping track of that. So the final thing we're going to do is something that's a little bit like our data set, but it will put us once more over the top. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to add from the analysis palette, I'd like you to add a histogram. Ladies and gentlemen, a histogram. And I'd like you to add, so I'm sorry, I said, yes, this histogram chart, and I'd like you to add a histogram data object similarly. Okay? So I'm going to have a cumulative infection count is going to be, and then cumulative infection count histogram data is going to be the name of it. You notice that I tend to name these things that are more complex constructs after the type of thing it is. So I say histogram data. So if I see a list, I'll know, oh, that's just the histogram data. Whereas this other one, the chart itself, I'll call the chart. So this will be cumulative infection count histogram. Don't worry, Christine. We're just about done. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, so there's a cumulative infection count histogram. This is going to be a histogram showing the number of people who've had a certain number of infections. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then there's going to be this data that's going to record that, and I could say the number of intervals that it's going to record, etc. Okay, so here's the histogram. Ladies and gentlemen, this histogram will be based on what data, do you think? Well, it'll be based on this data. So I'm going to add this in. I'll say plus, add histogram data, and I will say cumulative infection count. In the histogram here, to which it refers, it says histogram, it's this little thing here, cumulative infection count histogram data. So in other words, this chart goes along as a pair with this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another one of these patterns. It's scattered among several pieces. We're recording at an individual level the number of times someone's infected. We have a variable to do that, and a place it gets incremented. And then we're going to have this histogram chart, and we're going to have an accompanying histogram data. And there's just one more piece, ladies and gentlemen, to get it fully going. And that will be even more rewarding than the coming treat from Starbucks, at least in my view. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask you now, as defining crown jewel, it's really not the crown jewel, it's more like the final piece of the puzzle. We're going to add an event. Oh my gosh. I was going to do it weekly, but wait a minute, we already have this weekly thing. And what the heck? Well, oh, wait, no, that's for incidence reporting. Okay, let's only have one weekly event. We're going to go down. Too many events cause eventinitis. So we don't want too many events. We're going to go down and call this weekly reporting instead of weekly incidence reporting. You see that side of me that was worried about this was borne out. So it's just going to be called weekly reporting, the existing event. And in addition to doing this, I have mixed feelings about this, but okay, fine. So once a week, we're going to update this histogram. Is that okay? Ladies and gentlemen, is that okay? Hearing no objections, I'm going to say we're going to put the counts into this histogram and update it. So what we need to do is we need to say cumulative infection count histogram, boom, histogram data, dot reset. We're going to reset it. I should have done it in 2 events. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to add each person's data to this. Because after all, the histogram to summarize for each person the count that had this many or that many or that many. It needs to know about each person's what? Each person's number of time they've what? They've gotten infected. Indeed. Indeed. After this many boot camps, you'd think this ear would be like way larger. Distended and so good, you, Christine. You can never plumb the strange components of male psyche. Poor Christine can attend to that. Can attest to that. Okay, so we're going to go for each person within this dot population. You haven't seen this before, but okay. We're going to go through. So this is saying for each person, this is a curly bracket. We actually don't need this curly in this place. Let's get rid of the curlies for now. We'll just put it right under there. If there's only one line, you just put it under here, and you indent it. Be sure to indent. Indenting matters. Okay? So ladies and gentlemen, here you're going to say, what are we going to do with this person? We need to add their what to this histogram data? We need to add their, what's the key piece of information? Yeah, the total infection count. So we're going to do this dot cumulative infection count histogram data. Oops. Cumulative infection count histogram data dot add. And what's the key piece of information we need to add? For each person, calling them person in turn. Person 1 in the population, we say, what's your name? Person. Okay, we're going to add in there. Well, that would be item for the statistics, but here it's actually called person. We actually said, name it person. There, because it's doing the loop for us, it wants to call it item, which I think is a bad name, but it didn't ask me. So here we're giving it an explicit name, person. So what's the first person's name? Person. We are then going to add their what? What's the key information we need from that person? Their, I heard it earlier, infection case count. That's right. The infection count, cumulative infection count. Okay, so person dot cumulative infection count. Okay? Okay. So first person. Okay, what's your cumulative infection count? 220. Okay, we're going to add it into the histogram. Next person. What's yours? 223. We're going to add it into the histogram. Okay? Keeps it lively. Keeps it lively. Okay? I tell you, Christine, they never believe it. Okay. Okay, so we're going to run this. Okay? Here we go. So we're running it. Time passes on. People spread. Where's that histogram? Does anyone know? It's further up. Ah, look what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. I run it. Look at that. Look at that. If we pause it at any one, this is a little pause button. Look at that. What is that telling us over time? What is it telling us? Are people all the same in terms of infection counts? Are they the same? No, they've got different numbers of them. Different numbers of cumulative. Do you see that? Now is the time to break for Starbucks. Yeah. Yeah. And if there were demand for it later, I'm going to do the sensitivity analysis talk first, following the break. But if there were demand for us later, we'd do a scatter plot. X would be the number of times they've gotten infected. Oh, excuse me. Y would be the number of times they've gotten infected. X would be their connection count, their degree centrality in the language of a social network analysis. And we would see, okay, to what degree is this count for a person related to the number of connections. Hmm? Hmm? Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, I would suggest a break for Starbucks, and I believe there's a search for a place where a joyous event took place. Great. Great. Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you very much, Christine. Thanks for leading that expedition. Thanks. Did you communicate? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.